Hello, viewers of the National Television. Welcome to this English news edition of Fabian Yonizige. Here are top stories. In the chapter of accomplishment of the head of state, Evariste Ndayishimiye, during the 5 years he has spent at the power of the country, today we look back at the construction and the rehabilitation of infrastructures. The most notable work has been the Inari Stadium, the construction of which is nearly completed. On this Saturday, in the political capital city, the Burundian head of state, Evariste Ndayishimiye, animated a press conference on the electoral process conducted on 5th June 2025. Welcome once more. Those are headline details now. Let's start this journal with the accomplishments of the head of state, Evariste Ndayishimiye, during the 5 years he has spent at the power of the country. Today we look back at the construction and the rehabilitation of infrastructures. The most notable work has been the Inari Stadium, the construction of which is nearly completed. Details with Jackson Irakoze.
The construction or rehabilitation of public interest infrastructure has been the main priority of President Evariste Ndayishimiye since his inauguration on June 19th, 2020. The rehabilitation of Inari Stadium has been one of President Ndayishimiye's major projects, aiming to provide Burundi with a modern stadium that meets the standards of the world's football governing body, FIFA, the International Federation of Association Football. The rehabilitation of this national sovereignty infrastructure was named honor and was led personally by the head of state, Evariste Ndayishimiye. The works on this project, mainly from the efforts of Burundians, began in October 2022 and were supported by the Burundian government. Financial and material constructions were collected from businessmen and institutions to fund the work. The rehabilitation of Inari Stadium is nearly completed today, and as a proof, it hosted the International Labour Day celebration for the year 2025. The modernization works of the port of Bjumbura were launched in July 2023. Funding is provided by the African Development Bank and the European Union. The total cost is 79 million euros, including 23.4 million euros from the African Development Bank and 29 million euros from the European Union. The Burundian government is contributing 2 million euros. This marks a major step toward strengthening transport infrastructure in Burundi and exploiting the potential of Lake Tanganyika as an island waterway, achieved through the launch of these works. The rehabilitation of the port of Bjumbura also marks the first phase of implementing the regional development project of the Tanganyika Lake Transport Corridor. This project will unlock the region's untapped transport potential and promote the realization of the vision of an emerging Burundi by 2040 and a developed one by 2060. Among the new infrastructures installed at the port of Bjumbura are the shipyard and the container terminal. The railway that will connect Burundi, Tanzania and the Democratic Republic of Congo is no longer a dream. Construction is expected to start this June if nothing changes on the Burundian side from Gitega to Uvinza, and they will last 4 to 5 years. The rehabilitation of roads has also been a concern of the Burundian government. Mention can be made of the rehabilitation of National Road number 9 via the Mutakura district, as well as paving and repairing various avenues that had potholes hindering traffic. Users of the Bjumbura-Bubanza Road are pleased with the progress of the rehabilitation work. However, they ask the Burundian government to complete the works to ease activities and the people's movement. Note that the rehabilitation works of National Road number 9 are being executed by Cura Contracting Company and are expected to be completed by 2026. Finally, presidential palaces have been built and inaugurated across the country. President Evariste Ndayishimiye inaugurated the presidential palaces in Kirundo, in the wide province of Butanyerera, in Muyinga, in the enlarged province of Buhumuza, in Chankuzo, also in the wide province of Buhumuza, and elsewhere. It is worth noting that funds returned to the public treasury through the campaign against fraud, corruption, and economic embezzlement were used in the construction of these palaces.
As I said, on this Saturday in the political capital city Gitega, the Burundian head of state Evariste Ndayishimiye animated a press conference on the electoral process conducted on 5th June 2025. He appreciated the vote that was carried out and says he is astonished to see some leaders of political parties who are complaining about the process, whereas they should have raised the irregularities promptly on the day of vote. Evariste Niyonkuru reports.
During this press conference, President Evariste Ndayishimiye animated on the recent electoral process involving legislative and communal elections held on 5th June 2025. He noted that elections were generally well conducted, though, as he put it, where there are people, remorse never moves. Indeed, there is no rose without thorns. Minor irregularities were observed, but the president reminded the public that anyone who disrupts the electoral process is not undermining a specific political party, but the entire nation. He emphasized that security forces are fully prepared to prevent and respond to such disruptions. Individuals who attempt to interfere with the electoral process, whether during the campaign or on election day, have been brought before the justice system. The relevant authorities made every effort to ensure the election will be properly managed, and observers and party representatives can attest to that. On election day, any identified errors were promptly reported, so appropriate institutions could address them. However, President expressed surprise that some complaints only emerged after the vote, whereas such concerns should have been raised immediately. He encouraged anyone with legitimate concerns to voice them transparently, so corrective measures can be taken. Regarding concerns about the state of democracy following C&D party's complete win in the National Assembly, President Ndayishimiye assured the public that he is committed to inclusivity. He stated that he would not hesitate to appoint competent individuals from other political parties to high-ranking positions if they demonstrate expertise and capability. The President of the Republic of Burundi also responded to other main questions raised by journalists, particularly concerning alleged irregularities brought up by some political party leaders. He affirmed that should such concerns reach the relevant authorities, appropriate measures will be taken to safeguard citizen voting rights in accordance with the Burundian Constitution and Electoral Code.
The various political parties and independent candidates who complained that the recent elections for members of parliament and municipal councillors in Burundi did not go well, that is their right to complain, but they are called upon to accept the results obtained the peace and the security. This was stated this Friday by Aimé Pascal Nduwimana, president of the Christian organization MAC, during a press conference held in Bjumbura. Jackson irakoze wasmo.
The African Ministry of Compassion MAC stated that it deployed election observers both at the national level and in all the extended provinces of the country. Each of these provinces was represented by a sufficient number of observers. It indicated that at all polling stations there were security agents, political representatives, and both national and international observers. According to Aime Pascal Nduwimana, the legal representative of the market organization, he announced that it will soon publish the results of its election observation, since it has already received reports from the provinces of Gitega and Burunga. He specified that correcting the results sheet is not an easy task, stressing that the Independent National Electoral Commission (CENI) took 5 days to do so as provided by the law. Regarding the criticism that the elections were tainted by many irregularities, Aime Pascal Nduwimana asked the various political parties and independent candidates to accept the will of the people as the voice of the people prevails. The head of MAC affirmed that his organization closely followed the vote counting process. Moreover, the various MAC observers testified to the smooth conduct of the elections in the 5 provinces of the country where they were deployed. They indicated that the elections took place peacefully and securely. To the newly elected officials, MAC asks them to be servants of the people and to all citizens to remain united in their diversity. Aime Pascal Nduwimana concluded his press conference by calling on the non-elected candidates to accept the results in peace and security. According to him, if it was not possible this time, maybe things will go better in the future.
And the Burundian Prime Minister Gervais Ndirakobucha warns the traders who buy maize cheaply from the farmers and return resell them to Anagesa. He mentioned whoever will be caught will be severely punished. This was stated by this official during the public broadcast held in Chibitoke province this Friday. Evariste Niyonguru once again.
As the maize purchasing campaign by Anagesa begins on June 16 across the country, some concerns were raised during a public broadcast organized this Friday in Chibitoke by the government. Discussions focused on the benefits already observed since the creation of this agency, which is responsible for managing food security stocks. Prime Minister Gervais Ndirakobucha explained that the many beneficiaries are farmers, as the price of maize has increased in recognition of their efforts. He clarified that the price per kilogram is not set randomly. The government evaluates the production cost of maize, which depends on several factors. The Prime Minister also reminded the public that only genuine producers are allowed to sell maize to Anagesa. He warned traders who buy maize cheaply from farmers and attempt to resell it to the agency at her price that strict penalties will be applied. Finally, producers are encouraged to properly sort their maize before selling. It must be clean, free of waste, and the yellow grain should be separated. You should know that the government set price is 1,700 Burundian francs per kilogram.
The Institute of Development and Economic Ethics is aimed at strengthening the human values that can support development within the population. Symphorien Hibagirigwa, legal representative of this association, reported this Friday during the official opening of its activities, which included a public presentation of its specification details.
Is a structure of consultancy, training and research in issues of ethics of development and the issue of the economy, so that the economic development can serve every human being and the whole of the human being. Indeed, we are already there. I was just said that in the last days in February, I was participating in the retreat on the national strategy to fight against corruption whereby I showed that, the Convention for the fight against corruption, the state has an obligation. The state has an obligation to fight against corruption in the first place, and that it has all what is required to fight against corruption. And where there might be a lack, a vacuum, it has the right to call upon others to help, whether outside or inside, through cooperation. And I think the first people he has to call, it is ourselves in the civil society, because it is our country. We are all concerned. And when we work to fight everything which can be a stumble or a challenge to our flourishing, we are all concerned.
Well, end of this news edition. Thank you for being with us. Keep watching our programs. Bye-bye.